Thanks once again for joining us. Today's show focuses on Tesla defeats the Bob Lutz destruction plan, version 3.0. As you know, a number of manufacturers have chosen to shut down and lay off versus producing large numbers of vehicles that would not sell. And so we chose to focus on this today, particularly because earnings are due today. And we're going to find out more information about what kind of margins Tesla has currently. Because if they have decent margins while others have had to shut down their production line, that speaks extremely well of where Tesla is and where it's going. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. As you know, we haven't had a show on in a while, not because there haven't been great Tesla stories to look at, but we really wanted to sort of reorganize so that we can get some better lighting, make sure sound works, etc. So expect us to really improve based on changing how we're shooting our show. So the big news in sort of Tesla country over the last 2 or 3 weeks is that the CEO of Stellantis announced that Tesla's price cutting is basically destroying the whole EV industry right now. And so we kind of wanted to explore this because Elon has kind of been preparing for this moment for the last 15 years. And it really shows that he's ready to go in terms of Tesla winning while other EV manufacturers might be losing. So the first question is, well, why is it that we're calling this Tesla defeats Lutz 3.0? So you may recall that the first defeat plan that GM/Bob Lutz had for Tesla was they actually decided to give large discounts on the Chevy Bolt as a way to force consumers to consider the Bolt instead of the Model S. And what happened was that even though the prices were lower on the Bolt, a lot of people chose to buy Model S's at higher prices because the value propositions of the vehicles were a lot nicer than what we were seeing from Bolt. So that plan of consumers would not buy Teslas because Lutz was able to offer a low-priced Bolt from Chevy instead of having to pay a higher price for the Model S and other vehicles that Tesla has put out. Kind of didn't work out, primarily because the back end of that plan was that GM was producing a vehicle targeting sort of people who didn't have much money but wanted to go electric, and they were trying to come in that $30,000 to $40,000 market share zone where there's a large affordability issue for those who want to stretch to that vehicle. So as we know, the story that happened was Tesla came out with Model S's running anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, and the value proposition that was presented fit the price point. And so now you had GM losing $10,000 to $15,000 for a vehicle, and it wasn't having the desired effect of Tesla destruction. So the next plan was things like help state governments, particularly in Michigan and other cities, to ensure that Tesla could not sell vehicles in their states. And so there are a lot of techniques like this that have been used by the large OEMs in an effort to win against Tesla. So the latest one that we're looking at right now in a 3.0 version of the Tesla attack by the large OEMs was sort of articulated by Bob Lutz, because one of the reasons why they could actually sell vehicles at a $10,000 to $15,000 loss is because there are a number of government incentives where if they sell the EVs, they can actually get tax credits while they're selling their more profitable large gas burning vehicles. So this idea seemed pretty bright because, they were moving cars. They're also sticking it to Tesla at the same time, and they're managing the relationship with government entities that are trying to reduce emissions, and they're sort of working the process with great technique. So all of this is kind of a good idea, and they were working the plan, and the plan actually didn't work. So as a result, we're kind of at a tipping point where the OEMs that were having to pay Tesla if they weren't making and selling enough electric vehicles ran into another problem, which is this idea of having those loss leaders in small unit counts was a great idea. The problem was the more vehicles that sold, you now had the problem of the losses incurred by the industry were large and growing. And so this whole structured process was not working as planned. So the question is, well, what was next in the process? And the answer is right now what we're seeing is because most of the major OEMs don't have their own charging facilities that work and are large enough in quantity, consumers are saying no thank you to everything from pickup trucks to other SUVs, etc. So now we're in an interesting position because one of the shows that I made, but we didn't put up, we'll send it to our Patreon subscribers if you'd like to see it, is focused on the fact that there's something that just happened that I think is mind-blowing. And that is in Norway, which is one of the leading sort of users of electric vehicles, Tesla now has 82% market share there. So one of the challenges that's sort of emerging is that consumers are now saying, well, there's a problem. And the problem is, why should we, why not just go with the brand that works, that everybody knows, that I can get instruction from friends on how to use the vehicle, how to use the charging facilities. All of this is well organized. Why should I buy another make? Now, what's going on in Norway is huge because Norway is a country where they've been buying German, and other manufacturers for a long time. Things like the Nissan Leaf. There's a bunch of different electric vehicles that are already in country and heavily used. So they're very comfortable around electric vehicles. So what does it say when they've gone from having a broad range of companies that they're doing business with to giving 82% share to Tesla? So I believe why this is mind-blowing is that the technology of electric vehicles should allow large numbers of OEMs to do well. What's starting to happen is just like, for example, your cell phone. Have you noticed how most people are focused on maybe a Samsung under Google or an Apple iPhone? Those are only two brands that are sucking up 70-80% of the phones being sold. And so consumers are sort of locking in to a small number of companies that they're happy with in the space. And the competitors aren't offering significant enhancements to what Tesla does in this case, for example, or what Apple or Google does in the case of the phones. And so now you have the consumers are starting to say, why bother? Why not just go to Tesla, get it done, work with the challenges you might have with Tesla, and keep moving? And so this is obviously a huge disaster for the large OEMs from a number of angles. Now, it's very obvious that they've had to shut down production because of lack of sales. Big reason for the lack of sales is poor management of electricity for recharge, etc. And so now we have an interesting situation going on where a lot of those companies are going to get cut out of the industry completely because so many consumers have already satiated their appetite for electric vehicles with Tesla, or they already have a Tesla relationship, which is being facilitated by the very low-end prices on Model 3s in this case. So therefore, I think we're entering a very interesting, strange zone for Tesla. The earnings that come today, I believe, will be a little bit light because Tesla has been discounting in order to move vehicles. But the other thing that's starting to happen is if they go from, call it 60 to 70% market share to 90% market share while the other OEMs are getting their acts together, it's entirely possible that you could end up with Tesla being a dominant player, leaving very little market share for competitors. So if we do see a drop in price today, do not be stunned to see that there are counterweighing forces like increasing market share that's helped along by the lower prices. So as you know, there are all kinds of things happening with Tesla. There's a shutdown of production in Germany because of parts issues coming through the Red Sea. There are, a number of discussions, i.e., Elon and how much money, etc. But I believe we're in a zone right now where patient investors can definitely get the W. So make sure you're hedged a bit. And I look forward to, Tesla doing some major nice numbers as it becomes clear that Tesla is kind of running a monopoly in an industry that represents huge number of jobs globally, etc. So I definitely am looking forward to your comments on this. I think that this is kind of mind-blowing because if you think of all the large companies that they compete with, then it's a surprise that we're getting where we are now. So, the last note I wanted to make on all of this is I can really see why Elon has been so cost conscious in terms of vertically integrating all the way back to the mine level, making sure that there's automation heavily there to lower cost per vehicle to some very, very low numbers for the industry. And it gives them room to make money while others are losing money. So again, we look forward to your comments on this. Finally, let's go to our health tips. I'm sort of obsessed right now with our latest health tip that we've covered once. And that is that I met a retired kidney doc and he recommended no more than 2 or 3 times a week or 2 or 3 days a week having meat. And the reason is that you produce something called urea/ammonia, and that really damages your kidneys in the process. So, I'd encourage you to read up on it, etc. But you may want to consider joining the maybe 3 times a week meat plan because I think it'll make a huge difference in your health. And I think you'll see impacts within 3 or 4 days of trying out this process. At any rate, once again, thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, au revoir, hitro, hoda, festra, sute ni hama, kambanwa, hey do, namaste. And in Jamaica, we'll say enough respect, wa kudman. Arrivederci. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. We look forward to our post-earnings analysis and also your input.